Welcome everyone, I'm Jesper Bendige and I'm excited to welcome you to Transporeon NEXT. Before we get going, there's a few housekeeping rules I just want to mention out. In order to chat with other attendants or speakers, please go to the chat section. In the Q&A panel, you can also submit questions to our product experts and they will be happy to guide and respond to the questions. And for any technical reasons, please follow the help and we will try our best to support you with our technical team. So why are we here today? We at Transporeon have launched a set of platform capabilities and products throughout our Transporeon Summit in Barcelona this year. And what is this all about? We all know that transportation is fundamentally about moving stuff from A to B, which should seem fairly easy. The challenge is just that it's not always easy to make work simply. Very often, the logistics professionals do not have automated and smart tools to help them manage all of those daily business operations. And we actually also know how often we have seen now that we get benefits from using technology which have made our general life easier. And this is all what we are about at Transporeon, is to developing these products and services that will help logistics professionals to ease their work. So in order to do this, we have been working hard and I'm really happy and excited to share 4 new product innovations that we have come out with. We'll start out this event with a quick overview of our newest innovation within procurement, which is the freight marketplace. And Jonah is going to take us through how that is working and all the great benefits. Thereafter, we will have Jonathan Ramdock, our head of product marketing, to go through the additional 3 major platform innovations and capability upgrades. Please sit back and enjoy.
I'm a guy who talks really fast, and now I get to talk about product, and I really love talking about product. It's my life's work, it's my passion, and I'm so glad to be able to do it here in front of all of you as well. What you're going to hear about in particular is a new product that we have called Freight Marketplace. It's been in the works about 18 months, and so to get us a running start at that, I'm going to take us back in time, 18 months ago. How did we look at building this new product? And then I'm going to roll us forward to where we got to today, what makes it so special, so exciting, so unique. And then I'm going to zero in on a few things that I'd like you to leave with. And part of that is getting you all to register for this new product live today. We come from a place of strength in our procurement product. So we have a product originally called T-Contract, now called Freight Procurement. And this thing is a successful product by any measures, right? It's growing double-digit percentages year over year. You can procure logistics services all over the world, any region, any modality. Very well appreciated by the customers. So we have very little churn, very few customers sort of use it and then leave us. Very flexible. You can design your procurement events as you want them to be. But that's where we come from. That's great. That's our base. And then we wanted to talk about where do we go in the future. And there, a fruitful thing to do is to go and talk to your customers, right? It's not all just imagination and envisioning. A lot of it's just tactical. You ask people, what are we doing well for you and what are we not? So let's start with the shipper community. And we say, what was exciting for you? Why did you come to us to begin with? What did you expect to get? And a lot of them, we're making this reference to the community, the network size. You know, they say, you guys talk a lot about this huge carrier base you have. I thought I was going to be able to tap into that. Like, there are procurement tools, and yours is a good one. There are others, but not all of them come with a large carrier base, high-quality carrier base that I could tap into. And that's what brought me here, right? It's good. That's interesting. We have another side of our platform, and that's the carrier community, the logistics providers. And we asked them, what are you excited about? Why did you come to us? Now, some of us just came to us because their shipper told them to come to us. Let's be honest, right? But many of them also mentioned, hey, I see a lot of great logos, like all the people you've heard on the main stage today, all the people you saw in the breakout sessions. And many of these carriers say, look, I'm a niche provider in some sense. I don't cover everything. People don't know my name, but I'm good at what I do. And I want to be able to get myself showcased in front of those shippers so that if I'm the appropriate carrier for some piece of work, I have a shot at that business. And I thought you would open the door for me. It's also useful to ask your customers what you're not doing well. Maybe you don't want to do it, but it's useful. So we go back and we say, what's your unmet needs? Well, there's an emerging unmet need with green procurement. Why is that an unmet need, and what's it really about? If you're ever going to reduce your emissions during execution, you're going to have procured those options before execution. Like you can't put your goods, if you're a shipper, you can't put your goods into a low emission fueled vehicle unless you already agreed on rates for a low emission fueled vehicle. So it really begins in the procurement cycle. They're saying green procurement's important to us. We need tools to support us there. And second is, this comes up a lot. People say, hey, again, you have a lot of data. It's not just about the carrier data, the carrier community. It's also about there's a lot of other people who are procuring through you. I'd sure like to know if I'm procuring at a fair price relative to the market. So I would like you to benchmark my rates against the rates that are available through Transporeon. And then this last one is subtle. I'll come back to this, but it comes down to many large shipping organizations in particular. They've got a cross-category procurement tool. Jagger and Coupa are the most common, but there's also SAP Ariba and others. And they say, it doesn't really work that well for procurement for logistics services, but I can't justify buying another tool just for logistics services either. So can you help me solve that problem? Okay. What are the unmet needs for the carrier community? Well, ironically, they are making green investments, but they don't know how to showcase it to new customers. I mean, they know how to showcase it to their existing customers, but how do they win new business with this, right? Again, rate benchmarking, like everybody wants a fair price, not just the buyers, the sellers want a fair price as well. And then this last point, again, is subtle, but if we were to open the taps and just give every carrier in Europe every procurement event that was running in Europe, they wouldn't be able to reply to very many of them because these are not standardized. Every one of these procurement events is structured differently. It's very time consuming to get inside of them and to understand what is the buyer really asking me about here. And we heard from actually someone in the room here, I'm not going to name names, but someone in the room is describing, when the market's really, really good for us, we don't even read the full event. We just check kind of the first page, and if we can't really understand if this is a good fit for us, then we pass, right? We don't even invest the energy. It's like, okay, so we need to standardize the procurement events. And then the commonality between these two sides is they say, you just got to make it simpler for me. You got to make it simpler for me to get my job done. I don't really want to invest a lot of energy, and this is kind of converse to the technology story where we don't really want to talk about the gizmos and the gadgets and the AI. We just want to get our work done. Okay, so when I try to summarize this information that we went and gathered, I see this as deal making, right? I see people say, I want to find the right partner, and I want to have a fair price, and I want it to be simple. It's like, okay, well, who else is doing that? Because that's the other fruitful thing you can do when you're trying to design or think through a new product category. And what I came up with, pretty different from the logistics sector, was the stock exchanges. When I think about a well-functioning marketplace, the definitive example that comes to my mind is buying and selling stock. It is simple, there's low fees, it's instantaneous, I have a best price execution guarantee, I'm expecting to interact with, user interfaces that look like this. It's beautiful, right? Like that's what I want to have. But it wasn't always like this. If you think about NASDAQ as a word, that is the North American Stockbroker Association, and it really has an origin story where a group of in that case, large-scale buyers and sellers of stocks, so market makers, were saying, yeah, we're not really serving our underlying customers well. Why was that? Well, if you go back in time to the formation of the NASDAQ, you would have called up a market maker by looking them up in a pink sheets. That's essentially a phone book. And you would say, hi, I would like a price for IBM stock. And they would tell you a buy rate and a sell rate. So they had to tell you both. But they didn't have to give you the same price that they gave the next person who called or their friend who called. And you couldn't check multiple buyers without losing the ability to make a trade. So if you hung up the phone, that was it. You either had to say yes or no at that moment. You lost the optionality. There was essentially no price discovery going on in this market. People had spreads between the prices that would be transacted that were huge. Multi-percentage spreads. Multi-percentage spreads meaning I do a deal for IBM, or I buy 10 shares of IBM stock, and then the next person pays multi-percentage more or less than me. Does that sound familiar in logistics? Does it? Because I think that's what happens today. Now, little by little, they started to introduce technology into this. So first, it would just aggregate the information about the volume of trades that were being done and the prices, and then it began to offer sort of real-time ability to see the quotes, the best quotes in the market, and also the depth of those quotes. And what you see was that this culminated in really significant value for the underlying community. So the prices in the spread of those prices dropped essentially to zero. The commissions dropped essentially to zero because there's no information arbitrage left, right? Everybody knows what the price should be, so you're just paying for the actual transactional aspect, right? Not the information arbitrage. And then people's trust in this process boosted, and so the amount of trading that was done digitally went up and through the roof. Now, you're all thinking like, hey, there's a really long history lesson on the stock market. Like, why did Jonah talk about that for a long time? This is why. Logistics, transportation, not even like warehousing, transportation in the US and Europe is much larger than the stock markets are in those two regions. What we do underpins and imbues the whole physical economy. It is a huge amount of commercial deal making which is taking place, and we think that it fundamentally lacks the infrastructure that it deserves. Right? It ought to be simple to find the right counterparty, to strike the right price, but it isn't. And that's where we come in with our interest in producing freight marketplace to solve these unmet needs. Now, that was a long origin story. It is a sourcing and procurement environment. Sourcing here meaning that it's helping you find the right partner. How are you going to do that? Well, you're going to do it, depending on which side you're on, by either showcasing your business if you're a logistics provider, and we have a supplier catalog, which we'll talk about in a moment, or by searching for that catalog for relevant companies. And then the procurement process is pretty straightforward, what you would expect. Buyers describe things that they want to buy. Like, I want to buy logistics services on certain laneways in a certain structure, and I want my rates given to me in a certain format. I want them to include fuel, all-in prices, etc. And then these can go back and forth through offers and counteroffers until a contract is awarded, and then we either bring it back to your execution systems, or it stays in our execution systems in Transporeon, and then on to freight audit when that moment comes. I want to elevate in your mind a couple of things, 5 things in particular, that I think are important and differentiate about this product. Before I do that, I just want a little segue to describe, when I think about products, they are the embodiment of a theory about how a problem should be solved, how a job should be done. That's, to me, the most important thing that defines how I look at products. They're essentially somebody's opinion. There's somebody's opinion, hopefully insightful, about how a job should be done, and we manifest that in software. If we get it right, it's beautiful because it shows you a way forward in a problem that you have that nobody else was able to solve yet. If we get it wrong, then we got it wrong. So as I highlight these things, you're going to see how we think about the problem space of buying and selling logistics services. So the first is, one of the reasons why it's hard to be satisfied with the buying and selling that you do today is just we don't know who all is in the market. Like, it's that simple. It really is not even more complicated than that. It's just, I don't feel comfortable that I'm getting the fair price for my services, whether I'm buying them or selling them, because I just don't know who else is out there who I might want to work with instead, right? So we did the very simple, straightforward thing of taking our underlying community inside of our platform and giving them a chance to produce profiles on themselves to showcase what they do, both buyers and sellers. So we launched with sellers, we'll add buyers in the next month or two. Second point is we knew that we needed to strike a balance between allowing the sellers, so the logistics providers, the carrier community, to find new business while not just making this a free-for-all where every anybody who can get access to this can sort of see all the data. And the way that we struck this balance, I think, is quite interesting and unique. So what this allows is, let's say that I'm a large buyer, I'm a IKEA or a Nestle or somebody. I would define my incumbent carriers, the ones that I want to see that I am running an event. They'll see my name, they'll see the full address details. If it's added, they'll see a link to my legal terms and conditions. Everybody else can still reply to the event, but they're not going to be able to see my identity. So they're going to see a anonymized address. So the address will just have the first 2 digits of the postal code. They won't see my name, but they might be able to see statistics about me. For example, how often when I run an event do I go on to award that event? So they know that it's not just phishing, right? Phishing for rates. Now this is a one-way mirror though. So if I'm a carrier and I reply to such an event that's been anonymized, it's a new potential customer to me, the buyer needs to know who I am, right? Like they're going to see my offer, and if it's attractive price, that's the way that I can get my foot in the door. But the buyer needs to be able to see my identity. So this process allows the buyer to see the identity of the carrier, but the carrier, unless they've been invited, to not be able to see the buyer. And I can tell you from day one, from 7 hours of live usage now, this feature I think is working. Why do I say that? Carriers are making offers. Approximately half of the offers that we saw today were from carriers to a new shipper, new to them. They've never worked with that shipper before. And from my perspective, for the shippers, this is just a win-win. We saw some examples where the incumbents were genuinely the best price or highest capacity or shortest lead time in the market, and that's great. You just validated that you're working with the right party. And we saw some other examples where the incumbents really weren't at that edge. So that is also good information. Does it mean you want to change? No, you may go negotiate with your incumbents, or you may decide to change, but it's the information value that you're getting out of that's so important to me. The third thing, we built this product for the age of data science. What does that mean, really? It's like kind of fancy talk. What it means is that we can really extract a lot of insight from the interactions that we see in marketplace. So for example, I'm going to list a couple things which we'll be able to answer definitively 6 months from now, or if we see each other 12 months at the next event. So when you run an event, should you have 1 round of negotiation or should you have 2? If you have 2, should you invite everybody into the next negotiation or just the top 10 carriers? Is it 10? Is it 15? When you make the second round of negotiation, are you better off countering them, so making an offer to them, or waiting for them to make an improved offer to you? These are not stylistic questions. Like, there is a definitive data-driven answer to each of those. If you just collected the data the right way, structured it the right way, and analyzed it the right way. It also allows us to just produce, frankly, like better user experiences. So just better graphics, better ability to navigate through your data, because we knew that we were going to do that from the beginning. And most importantly for the carrier community, we structure every event the same way. So obviously the events can have different requirements. If you want your pricing to be on a weight break or a pallet break or a full truckload, but different by vehicle type, those are all going to be details that we need to have in the event, but we structure the way it's shown to the carrier community the same way. And we know from previous testing and also from today's launch that this speeds up the process. The carriers can reply to these events much, much faster, and therefore you're going to get more offers and you're going to get them faster. The fourth out of 5, we're getting there, don't worry, everyone's tired and like wants to be done here. The fourth out of fifth point that I want to make to you is that this is connected directly to our new contract rate on demand, rate benchmarking product, which you're going to hear more of in a few minutes, and also you'll get a demonstration of it tomorrow. The simplest way to say this is postal code to postal code rate benchmarking for the contracted rates that move through Transporeon. It is exactly delivering on the promise of our market intelligence product, which has been wildly successful. People are very interested in having rate benchmarking, and this takes it down from the country to country, region to region level to the postal code to postal code level. And then the last, which we think is quite striking when people see it for the first time, is if you are a buyer, if you're a shipper, and you're currently using a procurement product, this is going to be free. This is a free-to-use product for the buyer community. Now, what I think that particularly does is it negates the question of how do I justify buying another procurement tool on top of Coupa or Jagger or some other procurement tool that my company has already developed or something. We're not asking you to buy another tool. We're asking you, which tool do you want to use? Which tool is best for your business outcomes? Because you don't have to make a buying decision here. You make a usage decision. And we think that in that situation, and we've already seen this in the early access test, this is very compelling. Whether you use an in-house procurement tool that you built or you're using an off-the-shelf multi-category solution, connecting to a large carrier base, 70,000 monthly active carriers, connecting to a rate benchmarking service is very valuable. Now, what about, so where do we make our money, right? Like, what about for the carriers? Well, with the carriers, this is a different proposition. They're paying 100 euros a month for access to this, but that's really a cost of sale for them, right? So this is giving them access to a large amount of procurement events, essentially all the procurement events. It's giving them also an ability to showcase themselves to new shippers. And then finally, it's giving them statistics about what's happening in the marketplace. So how likely are they to win, in what segment of work, what volume is being done, et cetera. I know that people will want to know this. It's going to come up. So I want to just quickly describe how this compares to our flagship procurement product. If you're already using freight procurement today, good for you. This is a great product. It's not going anywhere. It's not being canceled or anything. It's not at end of life. It is right now focused on highly flexible configuration, strategic RFQs. That's really its sweet spot, and it covers all modes and covers all regions. Freight Marketplace, and in its current form on launch day, is focused on mini bids, road transportation, US and Europe. It also, in the future, will cover other modes and cover strategic procurement, but it's not there today. So if you're wondering, which one of these is most appropriate, frankly, I would say use them both, right? But if you want to have the comparison, you have that. So I'm going to summarize. It should have been simple in the past already for us to find the right counterparties in this industry and to strike fair prices. It's unconscionable that it wasn't already addressed. But this is something that we're taking seriously. This commercial deal-making and deal settlement side of Transporeon is absolutely as important to us as the transport execution and operations part of our business. And so when we looked at this, we came in very purposefully to solve what we felt like was an unmet need in the industry. And I'm as excited as I can be about this product. You don't get a lot of years in your life, to work. It's about half your life, and you don't get that many. And I'm absolutely satisfied to have put in the last 18 months on this product, along with some really amazing colleagues. But I'm going to stop there, and I would really encourage everybody who's in the audience, because this is appropriate to essentially everybody, whether you're a buyer or seller, to get yourself into Marketplace and see what the experience is like for you and your business. I look forward to seeing your success there.
So thank you, Jonah. I think Marketplace is like a great example of the neutral platform that facilitates this kind of collaborative mindset within our industry. So I would like to introduce 3 new additional solutions or innovations on our platform. Because in the end, the basic concept of moving freight is quite simple. It's getting stuff from A to B in the most efficient way. But we all know that the last couple of years have been quite challenging. And if I speak to people, if I speak with you in the room, the feedback that I often get is that logistics teams are under more pressure than ever before. And I do think that technology and logistics should be all about making people's lives easier. It's about helping people do their job more efficiently so that they basically can navigate these challenging times. So I'm super excited to announce the 3 additional new innovations on the platform. And these 3 innovations will help you have more fun. They will basically help you win more business. And they will also help you save time and money. So let's move on to the first innovation. If I would ask 5 people here in the room what like the freight cost would be for an FTL shipment from here to Antwerp, I would get like 5 different answers. And the reason for that is that it's also based a bit on experience, it's based on gut feel. And that's exactly the reason why 2 years ago we launched Market Insights. It's a tool that helps you, regardless if you're a shipper, a forwarder, carrier, to basically give you access to neutral market data so that you can make the right decisions. And today, we're taking this one step further. So we're actually introducing, like as Jonah already mentioned a bit, rate benchmark. So Rate Benchmark actually expands the capabilities of Market Insights. It's built on top of Market Insights, and it gives you an additional level of detail, an additional level of accuracy. So instead of just seeing like country to country, region to region, you now have like a very accurate postal code to postal code cost or freight cost, giving you more accurate information. The second innovation that we have on our platform is, and I know that we are a mixed audience of carrier, shippers, forwarders, but this innovation is mainly aimed at companies that are doing like forwarders or companies that do a lot of forwarding business. And maybe I will start with maybe a more provocative statement, and that is that people are not good at quoting. I mean, a lot of people enjoy giving a quote. They like the hustling. They maybe like to strike like the best deals. But in the end, they're not always that good at it. And maybe I should nuance this a bit because, of course, you guys are good at quoting. But people are not good at quoting at scale. If you get like a lot of spot requests on a daily basis, like hundreds or thousands, it's impossible for us human beings to basically answer all of them immediately. So the second innovation that we're introducing on the platform is autonomous quotation. So autonomous quotation, I think the video explains pretty well what it does. It will help you quote more instantly. It will help you win more business. but also for the shippers or the load givers, it's a very interesting solution because it will give you like instant quotes. If you ask for a quote, it will give you immediately a response. So that brings us to the next innovation. The third innovation is something that we actually have been doing already for years as a managed service. And now we are also excited to launch freight audits as a platform capability. I will also watch a quick video on what that means. So that's the third innovation. I mean, we have so many transactions on our platform on a daily basis. These shipments have been created, they have been assigned, they have been executed, they have been monitored before they actually reach the final destination. But it doesn't end there. You also need to have like the invoicing, and on the receiving end of the invoice, you have the freight audit process. Because in the end, we all want to basically just pay what we agreed on. So this is, again, a solution that is aimed at this neutrality, making sure that everybody gets that certain trust level. So these are the three innovations that I wanted to tease you on. All of these three innovations will be in product deep dive sessions.
Thank you very much, Jonah, for a super interesting and exciting presentation. It's really a market-changing product, and we are so excited. Also, a big thanks to Jonathan going through our three other innovations. I'm super excited of what the team has achieved. This really shows how dedicated the team has been in developing new platform capabilities and products. Want to move on and take a more deep dive of each of these four fantastic products. Remember, throughout the session, you can ask questions to the product experts, and they will be happy to answer any questions throughout the session. So once again, sit back and enjoy, and I hope you learn a lot.
Hello and welcome to today's deep dive session regarding the Transporeon Freight Marketplace. I would like to take you into a demo of the Freight Marketplace and show you a couple of things that Jonah was also talking about in the introduction to the Freight Marketplace, and go through the whole process of running events in the Freight Marketplace. If you have any questions during the session, feel free to post them in the chat, and we'll do our best to answer them during the session. So now let's dive into the Freight Marketplace and have a look at how the Freight Marketplace works. I'll be showing you both sides today of the Freight Marketplace, the shipper side and the carrier side. We'll be starting off on the shipper side. You'll see on my screen right now, you'll see two events running at the moment. We'll be using the top one as a demonstration today. First point I want to mention here, currently the Freight Marketplace focuses on road mini bids. Road mini bids means we focus on road freight events, and we focus on mini bids, which are essentially events with one lane with multiple shipments in a certain time period. In my example, I have one event running here from Ulm to Budapest, which we'll be using as an example. This event is already running, so we have created and have started it. And now I want to show you the process from the start of the event to offer submission on carrier side and to the evaluation point on buyer side, on shipper side. For this purpose, I will first of all jump onto the carrier side because this event is running and is now open for carriers to bid on. I'm now on the carrier side, and we see this from the carrier view. The first point I want to mention here, and this is also a point that Jonah mentioned in his introduction, is that we will see events in the marketplace, but we'll see them in two different ways. This means that events will be visible to all carriers, but they will see different kinds, different level of information. A shipper can add carriers to an event when the shipper creates an event. If a carrier is added to an event, they will see the full details of the event, like the buyer information. If we're looking at the first event in here, this is one the carrier has been added to. They will see the full information about who is the buyer, what is the name of the event, and they'll see the full details about the lane. So they'll see the origin location, Ulm, for example, and a destination, Budapest. And they'll see all other detail as well. Events that the carrier has not been added to will also be visible, but with less information. This means if we look at this event down here, we will see that the buyer information is not visible for this event. We don't see the name of the event, and we don't see the full location details. What we do see is the country code and also the 2-digit zip code. This means it gives me information about the event, but I don't see the full details about the buyer. I see all the requirements, I see the volume, and I see the rough information about the lane. As a carrier, I can bid on both lanes, on both types. But if for one, I have more information than for the others. This is an advantage for the carriers because they have the option to bid on more events than they would normally be invited to. For the buyer, for the shipper, it has the advantage that they get more offers than they would otherwise normally get. So they can put out the event to a wider range of carriers, but without giving up too much information for carriers they might not know. So they can add their incumbent carriers, for example, to the event to give them full access, and all other carriers can still participate, but don't see the full information. I will now go into the first event here. This is the one we started as on buyer side, on shipper side. And here I'll now go into the details of the event. So as a carrier, I'll be able to see the details of this event. The setup of the page will be the same for all events, so giving a same structure for all events, making it easier for the carrier to get an overview. We'll see information here about the lane, Ulm to Budapest. We'll see information about the contract period, so when should the rates be valid, and other information like the equipment type, or also the distance that we calculate automatically. We'll see information about the volume. So in my example, we have 10 shipments per week in this event, which equals 140 shipments in total for the entire contract period. And when the shipments contain 33 pallets. This is individual to the event, and a shipper can decide and define what the volume is in the event. Below the volume, we have all requirements that apply to this event. Here, all information, all requirements should be listed. They're important for the carrier to know if they want to submit an offer for this event. So for example, there can be information about the pricing. It should be an all-inclusive price, so including fuel. We have information, for example, about dangerous goods, if that applies, and which dangerous goods UN code applies, and if other requirements apply, like a forklift is required, or other driver requirements, safety vest and safety helmet, for example. So all requirements should be listed here. In the bottom part, we have information about the steps, about the laneway itself. We see that on a map on the right-hand side, and we see information on the left-hand side about every step. So we see information about the pickup location in Ulm, information like working hours, opening times, loading times. And we see information about the transit itself, like the distance, and information about the destination, again, including working hours, for example. The details page should contain all information that is needed for the carrier to put in an offer or to decide to put in an offer. On the right-hand side, we have some statistical information about the shipper. So what is his activity on the marketplace? How many events have they run? What is the total spend on the marketplace, and so on. And last but not least, contact information. This is contact information on shipper side regarding this event. If the carrier decides to make an offer, they can simply click on the button Make an Offer in the top right-hand corner. And here we'll have different options to enter the offer. By default, or at a minimum, we'll always have the price included. So we can always put in a price as a carrier. But as a shipper, I can decide, in addition, if I want to ask for capacities and emissions. In my example, I have all three. This means the carrier will now have the option to define, okay, what is my capacity? 10 shipments per week are required. That's the volume in the event. And I can now decide what is my capacity as a carrier. For example, I can say I can't do 10 shipments per week, but I can do 5 shipments per week. So basically a capacity of 50%. In the emissions section, we include a calculation of an emission amount. In our case, that means we're calculating kilograms CO2. This can be entered manually by the carrier if they have an own calculation for that, or they can use our calculator to calculate the amount. We automatically calculate the amount here based on the laneway, Ulm to Budapest, and the 780 kilometers, and on some factors that the carrier can influence here, like a fuel type, is it a diesel or a gas truck, for example, and also the emission standard class. For example, is it Euro 5 or is it a Euro 6 truck? And that will change the calculated amount of CO2. Last but not least, I entered a price here as well. So I've entered capacity, emissions, and now I can enter the price. And with that, I've filled out my offer. I have the option to define an expiration date if I want to. So I can say this offer is valid until a certain time. And if this time is reached, then the offer will automatically expire. So for example, I can say it is valid until end of Friday this week. I can finish the process by submitting the offer, and now the offer will be submitted. I can submit multiple offers. As a side note here, I can submit multiple offers, for example, with different emission amounts and different prices. That option exists. Since this offer is now submitted, we will now jump back onto the shipper side, and we'll look at it from the shipper perspective. On shipper side, we'll see the event again. This is where we started off beforehand. We'll see the event is running, and we can look at the details or the results of the event by clicking on Show Details here. On this page, we will now see all the offers coming in. In my example, we'll see now 5 offers. So the offer we just submitted as a carrier and 4 other offers that have already been submitted. These offers I can compare now here on a price level, emission level, and a capacity level. Here also the hint, we will easily see here as well which offers came from carriers that were invited. Those are the 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom, and which came from carriers that were not specifically added to the event. And this is the icon that we can see in here. So this is an offer from a carrier that was not specifically invited, but still submitted an offer, and I can use that offer as a comparison and to potentially find a new carrier. I can easily add that carrier if I want that carrier to have full access to the event. I can also easily filter out those offers by selecting the filter at the top. For further details on a carrier, I can look at the profile of a carrier. So if it's an unknown carrier, I can click on the name and I can see the profile of the carrier. The profile includes information about the capabilities of the carrier, like the general information, address information, contact information, company size, VAT number, and other factors, and information about the contacts, so the contacts on carrier side, and information about what routes are they interested in, with a geographical lane or corridor, and connected to equipment type. This routes of interest is interesting for the shipper as information, but it's also used on carrier side as an easy way to filter on events. So it's easy for carriers to filter on the events that fit to their routes of interest. The profiles here, so you get information as a shipper about the carriers, and it's useful to know more about them if there's an unknown carrier. Going back to the list of events, we now have 3 options how to react to an offer. We can directly award an offer. We have the option to reject an offer. And the third option is we can create a counter offer. I'll do all 3. The last offer, for example, is a pretty high offer. Here I can, for example, say I want to reject this offer. So I can reject this offer and, for example, stating a reason that the price is too high. So I can easily reject offers in here if I do not want to consider them anymore. I can also award offers, but first of all, I want to show you the process. I can also create counter offers. So I can also take an offer that a carrier has submitted, and I can create a counter offer on that to create a negotiation on the rates, on the offers. For example, I can go in here and basically post an offer to the carrier. I can do it for capacity. I can do it for emissions. In my example, I want to go ahead and do it on price level. This is a carrier I want to work with, but I also see another carrier submit an offer for 900 euros. So I'm going to create a counter offer here for 900 euros to this carrier and state that I would accept his offer if he goes down from 1,000 down to 900 euros. That way I can very easily create a counter offer, which will also appear in this list. And now I've basically played it back to the carrier. For that purpose, I want to now jump back onto the carrier side, and we're going to jump back onto the carrier side, which we were looking at beforehand. Brief refresh of the page, and we'll see here the original offer from this carrier that we posted beforehand as a carrier, and we'll see the counter offer from the buyer, from the shipper. And now the carrier will have the option to reject that counter offer. So they can, for example, reject it by stating the price is too low, for example, or stating another reason, or they can accept that counter offer. If they accept that counter offer, this offer will be the awarded offer for this event. In my case, for 50% of the volume. So this means the carrier has accepted this counter offer and will be awarded for this 50% of the volume. This will also be visible when I go back onto the shipper side. I'm jumping back onto the shipper side, and we'll see now here the awarded volume is at 50% because my counter offer has been accepted, and the counter offer at a 50% capacity. That way, we have an easy process of creating a counter offer, sending it to the carrier, and the carrier has the option to accept it. Other way around, I can also go ahead and award from a shipper perspective as well. I have still 50% of the volume open, so I can, for example, award this carrier with that 50% of the volume and that price, and award this carrier as well. If I award this carrier, we will end up with 100% awarded volume, and I have also immediately closed the event. So we have 100% awarded volume. I have two carriers that I have awarded, Trans-European Logistics and MP Transportation Services. One by awarding from my side, one by accepting a counter offer. And with that, the process is finished. From the start of the event to the offering, to the counter offering, and in the end, to the ideal end, to the award. To help me get an overview, so if I'm running events over time, to help me get an overview of the events over time, we have also an overview page. This is the first page up in here, the overview page, where we can have information about the activity on the marketplace. We have information in here, for example, about the awarded spend. So we have information about the awarded spend on the left-hand side, or for example, on the right-hand side, the awarded spend by carrier, by seller. So we see information about the activity that I have as a shipper on the marketplace regarding the awarded volume. In the bottom part, we'll also see information about the specific events. So we'll see information about what events have I done, what is the status of these events, and what were the prices that I got? What was the best price from my invited carriers? What was the best price from carriers I did not invite, but they submitted an offer? And that way I get an overview of what is the best prices from my invited carriers, not invited carriers, what is the awarded spend, and have an easy way of getting an overview. From here, I can also easily jump into the details page of each event by clicking on the link here. And one additional thing that we have in here, which is important to mention, is that we have the first connection to our contract rate on demand tool here. This means we have here the option to jump to the contract rate on demand tool, and you can log in if you're if you have that as an existing product, and can see details about certain laneways in the contract rate on demand tool. To show you an example here, this would be, for example, I can go in here, I see information about the development of an offer or the offers on a specific laneway on a zip code to zip code basis, and I get information about market prices. Contract rate on demand, which we'll be hearing more about later, gives you market information about the rates, which is useful information for you to pull in to compare to your offers you are getting in the marketplace, and is a useful tool, and is a way how we are connecting the marketplace to other products in the Transporeon world. That will be expanding over time to connect it more and more also directly into offer comparison page. Going back to the overview page, this style of BI tool dashboard we have available on shipper side, but also on carrier side. On carrier side, we have a similar dashboard that is useful for the carrier to see information about the activity or about what's going on the marketplace. I would like to thank you now for joining. This was aimed at giving you an overview of the freight marketplace, of the capabilities of the freight marketplace, and I would like to now come to the end of the demo. Hopefully you got a first good overview of the new freight marketplace. And obviously if there are questions, we are very happy to answer them. This was a short, quick run through the freight marketplace. If you're interested, we can always give you more information on this new platform. For now, I want to say thank you for listening. And yeah, thank you for listening, and have a great rest of the meeting.
This picture shows the European road freight market for FTL transports according to Transporeon's data. What you can see here are indices representing freight capacity, spot rates, contract rates, and their development since the beginning of 2019 until August 2023. What is immediately visible is the impact of the pandemic and the changes it brought about. While 2019 looked like a relatively normal year, everything else since then was not. When we look at spot rates, we can see an immense drop at the beginning of 2020 due to the lockdown. Capacity was always available, carriers were really desperate to just get any load to transport. And once our consumption pattern actually changed and we moved away from events and experiences to online shopping and do-it-yourself projects, then prices recovered, capacity became very scarce, and we saw a huge rally of nearly 50% of increase in spot rates until July 2022. But who would have guessed that this is the end of it, and then rates would decline by 25% until February 23. And one of the reasons for this unprecedented rally is basically freight capacity. It is one of the factors that kind of determines how spot rates behave, and what we see in the beginning of the pandemic, an excess amount of freight capacity that very quickly then actually kind of went below the level of 2019, which you can see here as this yellow line. It basically represents the average of 2019, and you can see that in the middle of 2020, capacity dropped below it and never really fully recovered until 2022. And in the long run, spot rates and freight capacity also influence the contract market. So when we look at it, we see also in the beginning of 2020, contract rates going down, then meandering around for half a year, and then recovering really nicely again, also like starting a rally, growing by 25% until August 2022, and then ever since so slightly declining by 3%, still being 20% above the levels of 2020. And when we look at also this year, there isn't really kind of much that reassures us that things are going to be back to the way they were before, that there will be like the old normal kind of coming back. We saw spot rates kind of going down, capacity for the first time being above spot rates in our indices. Then that was reversed in the second quarter. Now it seems that it may become closer, and all the while contract rates being in a slight decline. We don't know yet if we'll ever go back to the way things were before. And just look back at the last 2.5 years when you were looking at optimizing your freight sourcing and selling operations. The troubles you had to negotiate your transportation budgets if you wouldn't have had data like this. The problems you had in talking to your service and business partners when you actually had negotiations with them, and trying to decide if and when to do a tender, and the bids that you're going to make on it without knowing what are the precise rates in the market. And while data is actually very helpful, it's very hard to come by it. Often your own data may not be sufficient, and external data may not simply be available to you, very expensive, or it is not up to date. Basically, what we believe at Transporeon is that everyone should have access to up-to-date, comprehensive, and affordable data to make the most out of the market and to navigate these tough times. And this is why we have created Market Insights. a market intelligence solution that kind of gives you an overview of the markets, lanes, and their development over time. Since September 2021, more than 250 shippers, carriers, and logistics service providers have joined us, and they are successfully analyzing pricing trends on country and regional level, looking at the capacity development, the cost structure of asset-owning carriers, and look into the overall European freight market to make the most out of these opportunities that they have and to win in the market. But from the many conversations that we had with you, we realized that you need more data to be successful in optimizing your freight sourcing and selling operations. You want precise contract rates on postal code level so you can benchmark your own contract rates against the market. You want to have also access to lanes outside of your network, so when you run a network analysis or you're looking into entering new markets, you have the data to make the right decisions. And more importantly, you want more support during tender season. So you know if a bid is showing the fair and average market price, or on the carrier side, how to compile a competitive and comprehensive bid. And it's with great pleasure that we are today launching Market Insights that delivers 2 brand new modules and 1 groundbreaking integration that solves exactly these problems while still delivering the proven and successful functionality that you all love. With Rate Benchmark, we give you the opportunity to compare your contract rates against the market. We take your transports, analyze and aggregate them, prepare your rates, take the average market rate, and then put them both together so you can see exactly where you are standing. It allows you to spot opportunities and identify risks in your network and proactively engage them. Contract Rate on Demand delivers the same precise contract rates whenever you need them without the need to share data. You just tell us for which lane you want to have precise contract rates on postal code level, and we make that data available to you. So you can build your own rate benchmarks, you can run big network analyses, and you can actually use also this data when being active in a tender. And most importantly, we also support you more during tender season. Our new marketplace has an integration with Market Insights, so you have access to exactly the same precise contract rates. So when you are compiling a bid on a tender, you can see if your offer is competitive, and as a shipper, when you receive a bid, you can see if it is the fair and average market price.
Hi, thanks for zooming in today. I'm Christina and I'm product manager at Transporeon. And today I'm super excited to introduce to you our new autonomous quotation product. What does this product do? It fully automates your quotation process from load selection to the final quote for all logistics service providers connected to autonomous procurement. The reason you're tuning in today might be very different. I mean, for sure you're curious about this new product, but maybe you have different backgrounds. So on one hand, you might still be a bit suspicious if this product is even working and if this is even something for you. But on the other hand, you might have also actually invested already substantially into automation of your quotation process. But all of these different views are very welcome to this session, and I think you are spot on to learn more about this exciting new product. Quoting is fun, especially winning a high margin quote is something your employees are probably celebrating. Also, the human aspect in the quotation process shouldn't be undervalued. However, I believe smartly scaled with AI, we can unlock a lot more value for you, and you will be able to quote at much higher scale. Let me give you an example from the data that we collect on our platform where I think this autonomous quotation product really fits into your process. Let's take again the example of 100 attempts. Your employee might spend 3.5 minutes to evaluate these quote offers. And that's 5.5 hours for these 100 attempts. But of course, in your business, what are 100 attempts? You will want to win hundreds, if not thousands of loads every day. So the capital investment into these quotation attempts becomes significant. And this is why I believe we can do better than that. I believe that the autonomous quotation product can really work as a catalyst, because obviously scaling the quotation strategy is not what is the fun part. The fun part is to see the opportunities in the market and to start changing your strategy, basically. And I believe autonomous quotation comes in as a catalyst in 4 different areas. First, you will be able to quote at a much larger scale. Why is this important? Because if you want to scale your business, you want to win more quotes, you need to be able not to submit just 2 quotes per minute, but you need to have unlimited capacity to do so. And this is exactly where our product comes in. And second, you are able to quote instantly. And while this may seem like a very small aspect of your quotation strategy, it's a very crucial one, because good loads are not available long, they will be taken in an instant. And this is where it is important for you to quote fast and accurately at scale. And the third part is that you're quoting at a calculated risk. And this is something many people don't think about. But as humans, we are very inclined to make choices based on our most recent experience. Let's say your dispatcher just hung up the phone and got 3 loads declined from your partners. Then he might be very inclined to raise the margin on the next quotations he is doing, although he doesn't really take into consideration that maybe he had 10 successful loads accepted the hour before. He doesn't know what the whole company is doing. And this is exactly where our AI technology comes in and sees basically all the data that is available and makes a quotation based on that. And the important part is also that you're not only receive a price prediction, but you are also able to see the confidence behind it and make a choice before you're quoting based on this confidence level. And the fourth part is very connected actually to what I said in my example beforehand. You're able to quote without any fixed costs. So this becomes very crucial because you are deciding on your quotation strategy, on your margin that you want to achieve, but you can scale this quotation strategy to any level that you want to achieve without any humans in the loop. So essentially, you're spot on to be interested in this product because autonomous quotation will allow you to fully automate the spot quotation process from the load selection to the final quote to your customers. There's no limits on what you can quote. There is no human in the loop. You can do so in milliseconds and at your target margin. And the very crucial part is that you remain in the driving seat of your quotation strategy while we make sure you can scale it. And I believe this opens a complete new era of spot quotations. And the great part is you can start with us at any scale you want. You want to quote just a single lane to try the product. You want to quote just one customer, no problem. We will not charge you any fixed monthly fee or any setup fees. You will only be charged for what you actually win. And this is why I believe there's really no reason why you shouldn't try this product, why you shouldn't embrace this new technology. So come talk to us for a deep dive session. We are very much looking forward to discussing this topic with you.
Thank you, Christina, for the nice presentation. Now I would like to show you a short demo of autonomous quotation product. Autonomous quotation is a combination of 4 parts. Autonomous pricing model working in the background for the predicted buying price, which we can build and customize for you. Rule manager, so the place where you can incorporate all of your rules you normally um, need to think about in your daily go-to-market strategy. Backtester, so the place where we allow you to test those rules on the historical data you had already access in our autonomous procurement tool. And the most important part, live quoting. Live quoting is the place where you can use your published rules and respond to hundreds or even thousands quote requests on daily basis. Let's start with the rule manager. In the rule manager, like I mentioned, you can add all those rules you normally need to think about when you receive a quote request from your customer. You can start with a simple one. So for example, just add a 10% of top of the predicted price we predict from your pricing model to all those transports. But you can go slightly more into the detail. So for example, you would like to prioritize one customer and those transports are very important for you. So you're adding 1% of discounts to make sure that you will secure those transports. And in addition, you can go even a little bit deeper to add sub-rules to this rule. So let's say you prioritize this particular customer use spot buying, but you would like still keep on top of loadings and unloadings on the weekends a flat fee. So we are just adding a flat fee of 150 to loadings and unloadings on weekends. We can provide you a combination of different rules. So for example, you are interested only in quoting in one currency. So you are marking that currency which is not equal to euro will be rejected because all the other currencies are not interesting for you. We can support you with lane preference. So again, you are very interested in lanes which are starting in Germany and finishing in Italy, and you want to make sure that you secure them. So you are adding a 2% discount on top of the predicted price. And of course, you want to have a safe quotation process and you don't want to quote below a certain number. So we can add a rule where you put a minimum of 500 euros, for example. Those, of course, are not all the rules we can provide. We have a combination of a lot of parameters you can incorporate in this rule set. Let me show you what, for example, you could add in addition here. So, for example, the time, the day of the week, or the time of the day where the loading is starting or is finishing. Then we can go much deep into the locations. So start with postal codes or finish with certain postal codes of transports you are interested in. Cargo types. So equipment type, if you are not interested in refrigerated transports or you're only interested in refrigerated transports, you can also add it to the rule set. That's not all, because also the distance of the transport. So if you don't like to do short haulage, you can reject those transports from your quote replies. After adding all those rules which are relevant to your daily strategy process of quoting, of responding to those quotes, we want you to test them to make sure that you can trust them. So we can go then to the backtester. In the backtester, we allow you to quote the rules you set up on the historical data, but the real historical data you had access in autonomous procurement from your customers. How to run a test? It is very simple. You just need to create a new test, name it, let's call it example number 2. Choose the rule set you are interested to test, add a target margin, which will show you how those rules are affecting the predicted price and how close you are to the target margin, and choose the maximum number of quote requests. You can go even into thousands, so 1,000, 5,000. Just for sake of this test, I will keep it 100. And create. That's all. Now we are waiting for for the tool to finish the test. And as you saw, it took us a couple of seconds. Normally, the same time is needed for the same amount of quote replies in the live quoting. So you already can see how fast it is working. We can check the details of this test. On the top, you can see the total quote request and the status of them. So 100 of 100 tests were quoted. Of course, there might be rejections because they are comparable to your rules, and you will see the number as well here. And next to it, you see the average quoted margin and the target margin, right? So here you can see how those rules affected your average margin based on those historical data. Of course, if you need to analyze it more, you can also download the whole table below in the CSV format. Below, you can see the table with more detailed information. So the order number, the predicted price, the confidence level of the predicted price, because we want to make sure that you are confident with the price we are predicting. So we are also giving you the percentage points of the confidence. The percent, if the percentage is higher, then of course we can go more confident with the quote reply. And then the quoted price. So how your rules worked on top of the predicted price and what was the target margin of this quotation. If you would like to see which parameters were encountered into the rules you set up, you can click on every single transport, see which rules were executed on these transports, and scroll down to see all the parameters which the transport had. After the test is finished and you are sure that the rule set you created can be moved to the live quoting, you need to come back to the rule manager, publish this rule set, and then you can jump in directly to the live quoting, where you can just start the quotation. And that's it. Basically, the rest is just to monitor it, and every time you can finish or stop the quoting to make sure that you have time to analyze what you quoted in the past. This is a short demo of our new autonomous quotation product. I would like to thank you for your time today to see what we can offer.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mark, working as sales consultant for Freight Audit. And today I'm going to take you into the world of Freight Audit and will take you online within the Freight Audit portal, which is fully integrated within Transporeon. So I will first start logging in into Transporeon. And from our single sign-on, I will directly go towards the Freight Audit portal by clicking on the Freight Audit portal. And this is the welcome page to Freight Audit. And immediately, I would like to dive within the portal itself. So here we are in the Freight Audit portal. But before showing you all the ins and outs, I would like to tell you something about Freight Audit. Freight Audit is actually acting as a lawyer. We are acting just black or white. There is no gray area within Freight Audit. Everything what we are doing is documented and everything is pre-agreed with our client. And that is why the documentation section from the Freight Audit portal is so important. Because what you can see here is the SOP for Freight Audit. And there, everything is described what is being performed for our customer. For instance, which exchange rate is being used for this customer, or which rounding rules are being used. Actually, everything is being described. And that is why the documentation section is so important. In addition to the documentation, we also have tutorials available for the system. But as I told you in the introduction, Freight Audit differs from most of the other products from Transporeon. Where the other products are really a SaaS service, Freight Audit is a managed service. And that's why we only have actually one tutorial available, and that is showing how to participate in issue resolution, in other words, in dispute management. That is actually the only part what needs to be done by our shipper, but also mostly by the carriers. Let's take you directly into one shipment. Going to orders and to the particular shipment, we'll need to make some settings and bring up the list of shipments in the system, which is being performed right now. As you can see, the system is rather quick. The reason for that is because of auditing millions of shipments each and every month. And that's why we need to have a very powerful system. So what I'm bringing up here is actually a unique shipment within our audit portal. And let me introduce you to the full flow. So it all starts with transport execution. The shipper within transport execution is assigning a shipment towards a certain carrier. And actually, it's not just assigning the shipment to a certain carrier, but it's also assigning the cost to a certain carrier. When the carrier is accepting the shipment and also the cost, the data is being interfaced towards the freight audit portal. And that's actually where my demo begins. So the data is in the freight audit portal, and what you can see, it contains origin information, destination information, weight and DIMS. But let me take you into the order details. So what you can see here is that we are receiving all the data, what is being received via the transport execution from the shipper. So it contains shipment information, origin, destination, weight and DIMS. The most important part is that all data will be validated upon receipt. The most important reason for doing this is that the end result of freight audit, which is a financial interface with our customer's ERP, needs to be correct. So in other words, the last digit behind the comma needs to be correct. And that is the reason why each and every field is validated if the content is correct and complete. In addition to validating the data, we are also normalizing the geodata. So when it comes to countries, cities, postal codes, airports, seaports, etc., all that information is being normalized. So let's take here the city of Munich. Munich can be provided in several ways, but let's take Los Angeles, which is an easier example. Los Angeles can be provided as Los Angeles, Los Angeles, LA, LAX, and those four entrances, while creating a pivot, would result in four results, four different outputs, which is not very helpful for reporting. So that's why we are normalizing the geodata. And then, as freight audit is black and white, we are definitely not allowed to change the data which is coming in. It's simply not compliant, which is one of the magic and important items for freight audit. So if we are receiving a certain city which is not according to the standard, then we will add an additional data field, in this case named as ship city normalized. So we will add another data field, and that data field will result in one output during the report creation. So that is the data validation, what is being performed, and the data normalization. In addition to that, the data will be enriched with financial information. So that actually means that, as I told you before, the end result is an electronic interface of the approved invoice directly to the financial side of our customer, financial system of our customer. And therefore, we are adding all the information what is required by finance. So in this case, the general ledger account, the cost center, but eventually profit centers or any other information required to book the invoice will be automatically added to the shipment details which are received from transport execution. Let me go back to the shipment details and to its calculation. So what we have received in that case is origin data, destination data, weight and dims, and the full cost breakdown. So all of this is being received when the carrier is accepting the shipment. So when the carrier accepted the shipment, he will pick up the goods and deliver the goods. When the goods are finally delivered, then it is time for the carrier to register eventual surcharges in the transport execution surcharge module, and additional surcharges can be discussed and approved by our customer. When the surcharges are being approved, then it generates another interface from transport execution, or actually from surcharge management, towards freight audit. And the approved surcharges will be included in the cost here. This is also very beneficial for the accruals, which can be sent towards the shipper. You might know accruals is a forecast of cost what need to be paid in the next month. Normally they are booked at the month end, and the customer can either download the default setup from our system, or we can generate a unique setup towards our customer. Nevertheless, so when the goods are being delivered, surcharges are managed, then within this process, which is a pre-audit process, the cost, the pre-agreed cost, will be advised towards the carrier. So in that case, either on a weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly basis, Transporeon Freight Audit is sending a billing instruction towards the carrier. And a billing instruction looks like this. Need to make a couple of clicks. So I will be generating the billing instruction and show it to you right now. So here is the billing instruction. The billing instruction is showing which carrier should create the invoice, but more important, because this billing instruction is sent to this carrier, more important, this document is showing to which invoice entity the invoice needs to be created. So it's the invoice entity details, and it contains the VAT number. As it is a consolidated invoice for multiple shipments, it is also showing the total amount what can be invoiced towards our client. In addition to the total amount, it also contains the total VAT amount what can be invoiced. In addition to this billing instruction, we are sending an Excel file towards the carrier. And this Excel file contains the full breakdown of cost for each and every shipment. So let me generate it for you. And there it is already. So here you can see the Excel file, and let me enlarge it a bit. The Excel file contains the shipment identifiers. So it contains the shipper, unique transport ID, but it also contains the reference created by transport execution. In addition, it is containing origin and destination information, weight and DIMS, but the most important part, of course, it is containing the cost. So here you can find a breakdown of cost for each and every shipment. In addition, it also contains the total net amount, which is actually the sum of this breakdown, the VAT, and the total amount per shipment. So having all these details, that enables the carrier to reconcile the cost before creating the invoice. When the carrier is not agreeing to the cost, they can reach out towards the carrier using the online dispute management tool, issue resolution tool, towards our customer. Here you can see a hyperlink. Pressing on the hyperlink will bring the carrier back towards the freight audit portal. For this demo, I will not press on the link. Please believe my blue eyes, but I will take you directly into the system. So let me take you towards issue resolution, in other words, dispute management. So when the carrier clicks on the dispute, then they will be entering this dispute management tool. When the carrier is clicking on the hyperlink in the Excel file, they will enter here in this issue resolution page. And they can immediately create a dispute. So in this case, they can type, "Thank you very much for the pre-billing instruction. The total cost for the shipment 123 cannot be accepted. The proposed cost of 100, while it should be 125. So please approve 125 to be invoiced for this shipment." When they press on submit, this generates an automatic email towards our shipper, and that email contains a hyperlink directly to this question. When the shipper logs in, they can press on this link and see all the details from the shipment. I've showed to you that before. And here you see some high-level details of the shipment. So having seen the details, they can reply to the question. And actually, in this case, the only correct answer will be, according to the mutually agreed and signed rate card, the correct cost for this lane and number of kilograms is 100 euros to be invoiced accordingly. Very nice from the carrier, they replied again, and they will just invoice the 100 euros. In addition to the conversation, you can also see all the timestamps of the date and the time. Let's imagine the other way around. Either Transporeon Freight Audit or the shipper is creating a dispute to the carrier, and the carrier is ignoring the email with the hyperlink towards the system. The most important one is that each and every day a reminder email will be sent to the carrier. But still, let's assume that the carrier is not replying towards the dispute. And when there is a QBR or MBR, the carrier might complain towards the shipper that they are not paid on time. Having all this here, so the date and the time and all the identifiers, all of this is available in the logs and is available for reporting. So all the reports can show towards the carrier, hey, you cannot complain being paid too late when you would have replied on time towards a dispute. We could have paid you on time. So in this case, it's really beneficial that all the communication is performed via this dispute management tool. So let's go back. So for now, I have showed you the documentation where I explained that the SOP is really important. I also showed when the order data is and how the order data is being received from transport execution. that the data is being normalized and the data is being enriched by financial information, and the data is being enriched again by eventual surcharges. So the surcharges and the calculation are helping the accruals on month end. And last but not least, I showed you the billing instruction and the breakdown of cost, which are being forwarded and which are being sent towards the carrier. So after issues, I would like to show our invoice page. On this invoice page, everything can be tracked and traced, not just by our customer being the shipper, it can also be chased by the carrier and of course by Transporeon. Externally, there are three important statuses when it comes to the audit status. The first one, in processing, the second one, denied, and the third one, approved. When a certain invoice is in processing, it's actually for a rather short time. The average in processing time among all our customers is roughly 48 hours. However, when the invoice is totally correct and received by our audit team, checked by the system, the invoice is actually approved within a split second. Everything is done automatically. The master data on the invoice is being checked by the master data in the system, and the costs are being compared against what has been sent towards the carrier. So, in principle, just a couple of seconds, the invoice is in processing. But let's follow the green path, which is approved. So once the invoice is approved, it will be automatically sent towards our customer. So the electronic accounts payable file is sent towards the customer and can be automatically booked into the general ledger to be paid accordingly. It is highly recommended to implement payment visibility as well. Transporeon Freight Audit is not providing any payments. Instead of that, we are visualizing the payment. So going back to the audit status, once the invoice is approved, it actually triggers or sends the automatic accounts payable file towards our customer. Implementing the payment status, then the payment status would be funding requested. When the accounts payable file is accepted and scheduled in the general ledger, the payment status is upgraded to funding confirmed. When our customer is paying the invoice, the payment status is upgraded to status paid. The biggest benefit is actually for our customer, also for the carrier. Let's start from the carrier. The carrier does have full visibility on the status of the invoice and if the invoice is booked and when the invoice will be paid. The big benefit for our customer is actually that they are not getting any phone calls anymore from the carrier or not any emails anymore from the carrier requesting when will I get paid. Carriers are also used to send a certain statement of accounts, which actually contains a list of, let's say, 100 invoices where they are requesting the shipper to fill out the status. This statement of account is actually available in our portal. So for each and every system, the data is available, the status is available, the due date of the invoice is available, and which is being calculated based on the master data. And when the invoice is being paid, the payment date is available as well. In addition to that, the invoice is available in the portal as a PDF, or the invoice is available as an electronic invoice. So every format of invoice can be accepted within Transporeon Freight Audit. All this statement of account information can also be exported to Excel, and it is giving way more information towards the carrier. So it is containing the due date of the invoice number, but also the several days and dates in the process. So the actual invoice date, when it has been received in Transporeon, when the invoice is created, the status of the invoice, the amounts of the invoice, when it was sent to the shipper, when it was approved at. So all the information is available for reporting and actually is there for a full statement of account. Last but not least, let me take you to business intelligence. And let me log in into business intelligence, because freight audit is generating indisputable data. And let me show you some possibilities within freight audit. So within the business intelligence side, which is named Freight Spend Insights, there are various default reports available. So here among the various companies, you are seeing roughly 50 default reports. Every user who has access to Freight Spend Insight, and there is no limitation, can create its own dashboard, like I did here, marked for demos. It is also possible that you create multiple dashboards for yourself. For instance, one related to finance, another one related to logistics data, and one related to KPIs. So once you have created the dashboard, you can drag and drop one of the available reports, which are available in the library. Let me show you some reports. Let's start with freight spend. So here you see the freight spend represented as YTD, but it can also be QTD or MTD, and it can represent it in your available currencies. So if you are using the euro and dollar, if you are invoiced in the euro and dollar, it will be represented as such. But let's assume you are invoiced in euro and dollars, but you are reporting in Singapore dollars, then Singapore dollars would be added and it would be automatically converted based on our default exchange rates where we are linked to Owanda. But in this case, you see the data on carrier, on mode of transport, on cost type. I think clicking on this, doing this demo in the live environment, is showing to you the power of our freight spend insights. In addition to all the default reports, which is actually according to the freemium package, which stands for free of charge, we do have a premium package. Within the premium package, you can create your own reports. Going to ad hoc and just drag and drop the reports. There is an enormous amount of data available. As I just said, we are roughly auditing 250 million shipments each year. So each site of our customers is containing an enormous amount of shipment data. But still, you see how quick it interacts, and just creating a report per carrier with all its costs, it is available within a couple of finger clicks. Here it is. It's also possible to save the data, or to export, but to save the data. When you save the data, you can save it for yourself, or you can share the report with your colleagues. In addition to this, it is also possible to schedule the report, for instance, every Monday morning to your email or to the emails from your colleagues. The last version of Freight Spend Insights, it's the advanced version. And in the advanced version, we can also set up an interface towards your system, or you can set up an interface towards our freight spend insights. Let me give an example of that. Let's assume you are launching a global tender, and I hope that we will be awarded for all regions of the world. But let's say we are not awarded for the APAC region, and we are just awarded for the EMEA region and the US region. In that case, you can interface the APAC data towards our system as well, and as such, it will participate in the default reports, and the data will be participating in the ad hoc reports. So this tool does have rather some benefits. I am at the end of my presentation and would like to thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much to our 4 speakers, really providing an in-depth insight to how our new product is working. These innovations is not just going to change and shape the future, they're also going to change the way logistics professionals are working, and all in the way to more automation and enhanced workflows. So from here on now, it's only to say thanks a lot for all of you guys tuning in, and I hope to see you again on the upcoming Transporeon NEXT, because I know for sure we will have very nice, very innovative products coming out. So thank you very much again, and have a great afternoon.